Hello, this is Bernie Wall. I'm an IELTS trainer and specialise in working with students who need Band 7 and 8 in their IELTS exam. And in the last video, we looked at academic task 1. And this week, I want to look at the general training task 1 and give you another 3 pointers, or I've called them 3 secrets, to making sure that you get a really good score in your IELTS task 1 at in the general training module. So let's have a look. I'm going to share a short presentation with you, and we will have a look at the 3 secrets to writing a great general training task 1. So let's start first with what you need to do in order to achieve at least Band 7 in your letter, because the general task 1 is a letter. So the first thing is you need to be able to address the subject well. Have the right tone. So as you know, there are different types of letter that you are asked to write. So you have to pick the right one, and once you pick the right one, then the language and the sentence structure, everything should create the right tone in that letter. It needs to be clear and concise, because generally these letters contain information or instructions or something similar. You need a good range of vocabulary, which is appropriate, but also fairly sophisticated, and shows the level of your English. And you need a wide range of structures for the same reason. You must have complex sentences. These are compulsory at Band 7 and 8. And the length, as I mentioned in my previous video, must be between 150 and, I would say, 180 words. So don't make it too long. But obviously, if it's too short, then you're going to lose marks. So practice this, practice making sure you've got the right length. Okay, so the first secret is to identify the type of letter. And as you know, there are 3 types: formal, informal, and semi-formal. So I want to say just a little bit about these 3 types. So the first one will be a letter to someone that you don't know. It will be about something that has happened to you usually, or something that you're trying to solve. So for example, you may have lost your debit card and you are writing to somebody at the bank to replace the card for you. Or you may have bought something and when you got it home it was broken and you want them to replace it or give you your money back. So the purpose of that would be something you're trying to achieve, and the person to whom you're writing is somebody you don't know. In order to get this, then you need to be formal. You need to persuade them with a very formal, polite language to do what you want them to do. An informal letter generally will be to a friend or family member. It will be asking them either to do something or to join you on something or to give you some information. And this type of letter is rather like a conversation. So it can be chatty, you can add idioms, you can add informal language, you can add things like exclamation marks and make it really friendly. And the last, which is possibly the most difficult type of letter to identify, is going to be either a letter to somebody you know well about a formal event or a formal situation, or it's going to be to somebody that you maybe don't know quite so well. So instead of being a friend or a friend or a family member, it might be, for example, your boss. So it's somebody that you know, and you might be giving them some information about the job you do and how you feel it could be better, something like that. So the situation is like a hybrid between the formal and informal, and it will have aspects of both. So let's have a look first at a formal letter. So here is about somebody in a hall of residence and they want to change their accommodation for various reasons. So immediately we can see they do not know the person to whom they're writing. So sir or madam. You don't have to put sir or madam, you can just put sir or madam, doesn't matter. This bit isn't really counted too much, but it needs to be a title but without the name. And whenever you have the title without the name, then you should end it yours faithfully. And that tells us that you don't know the person. Okay, so here there are a few signals, several problems. So the person reading immediately knows there's a lot to deal with. Okay, and the issues are both academic results as well as health. So now within these two lines, the person reading knows that there's a serious problem. And then you ask them what you want them to do. I write in the hope that you can assist me. So you want their help. So much is clear straight away. Then we give the story of what's happening. So this is what's happening. There's a lot of the classmate is staying up all night, making a lot of noise, stopping this person from sleeping, etc. And then there's a little bit more information about other problems that the person is having. And there's some good vocabulary here, like a constant untidy state, despite my efforts. So this is all formal language. Tried to reason, yeah, the word debris, quite a good word, and unconcerned. So these words will jump out as being quite formal and serious, and the situation needs to be rectified. And then finally, more information on exactly how this person can assist you. So unless, this is like an ultimatum, unless I can change my living accommodation, I'm unlikely to pass the year. So things are pretty serious. This student is worried about failing. And they're also having health problems, and the doctor is giving them sleeping tablets and possibly antidepressants. So from a health angle, it's urging this sir or madam to do something. And the word urge is used, makes it strong. Alternative accommodation, and then to make this a strong ending, I eagerly await your response. So some very strong language there. It's very formal, it's very objective, but it gives a good story about exactly what is happening. And the hope is that when the person reads this, they will see about changing the situation. Okay, so here's the opposite. Informal. So immediately we've got a name, Dear Emily, and we often use dear for friends as well. It's not an email, so you wouldn't say hi, but you can use dear, but the name straight away, and lots of love. If you're a friend or a family member, this would be lots of love, or love is how you would normally end. Okay, thank you so much. So quite informal. For agreeing to come and dog sit, if you know this word. I appreciate a little bit formal, but you're asking them to do something out of the ordinary. Okay, then the instructions. What does the dog need? A handful. It's quite a nice little word. To top up. You'll see there are lots of phrasal verbs. To top up, to go out for. Yeah, then we've also got here, get back. So phrasal verbs, very, very useful in an informal letter. And then emergency number. And then we have an extra request, and an extra request that probably Emily didn't know about before. So we make this a little bit more formal, if you don't mind, because you're asking them to do something that hadn't been planned before, and asking them to water the plants. Okay, and then help yourself to food and drink, so that's a nice invitation. And then I'm looking forward to seeing you. A friendly ending when I get back. So phrasal verbs, the odd idiom, some informal and friendly, be a little bit emotional, because this is the type of relationship that this is. And finally, the semi-formal. This one is about reunion. So all of these people are classmates, they were at school together, they know each other very well, but now they've grown up and it's a coming back together. So it's friendly, but also it's a formal event, therefore you need to add informal things like the time, the day, what's going to happen, asking people to reply, etc. So here we have a little bit of an introduction, and immediately it's the class reunion. Okay, a little bit about how it's going to be, and a little bit of humour, things you did or didn't do. So that's kind of friendly. And then they talk about inviting the teachers, and again, some more humour. Talk with your teachers rather than be talked at by your teachers. So a little bit of humour to keep it light. Then we've got the nitty-gritty, the important information, a 3-course meal, music, dancing, and then an opportunity to share stories. The date needs to be in there, the place needs to be in there, the time needs to be in there, and ends around midnight. This letter doesn't contain the price, but you may want to put the price in as well. How much is it per person? Then who is getting this invitation? And what do you need to do when you've got it? You need to RSVP. So they need to know the numbers, and you need to make that response before Friday, April the 3rd, so that they can finalise the plans. And then again, like in the informal letter, I'm really looking forward to seeing everyone. So as you can see, it's a mix of formal and informal language, a little bit of humour, a little bit of friendliness, but all the details that are important in an invitation. Okay. Now, the second thing you should do is try and imagine the situation in your head. So if it's a real situation, then that's easy. You can just recall the memory. But you could have an imaginary situation. And if you have an idea in your head or a picture in your head, it's a lot easier to express what happened or what you need to do. If you're asking, for example, if you're complaining, you might need a little bit of emotion. Keep the emotion very, very objective. If you're talking to a friend, then the emotion can be a little bit more passionate. You can talk about when you met or what you did or something like that. So think about, the emotion is good. So in a complaint, you might want to say, you know, it ruined our holiday, for example. But don't go too far with the formal letter. But in the informal letter, you can recall memories that you shared together. How did you feel about it? How do you feel about it now? If you want to complain and you want the person to give you your money back, for example, you need to show them really how you're feeling and why it's absolutely the right thing to give you your money back. How do you feel about the person you're writing to? Are they objective in a formal letter, in which case you need to be detached? Or is it your brother or sister or best friend, in which case you want to be close? Is it your boss, in which case you might want to be a little bit formal? Or is it a classmate, like the last letter, in which case you can be a little bit humorous? And what instructions do you need to give? And give these very clearly, step by step. When you start out on your letter, I would always have in mind the reply that you want to get, and then write the letter to get that reply. So this is the third secret. Think about the response and write the letter to get that response. So what do you want that person to do when they read your letter? And then try to put everything into your letter that will prompt that result or prompt that action. They will send you your new credit card. They will give you your money back. Your friend will say, of course, I'd love to come and look after your dog and I'll look after your plants. Or the person who receives the letter about the reunion says, oh, I can't wait to go and meet all my old friends. So prompt that result. Are they likely to do this easily? Okay, so the classmates, yes, probably. If it's the lost credit card, it's part of what they do. So yes, they're likely to give you your new credit card. But if it's a refund of money, that's going to be a little bit more difficult. So you may need to be a little bit more persuasive. So persuade them to do it. And then always think about who is receiving the letter and what you want them to do. So I think it's a really good place to start. Even though the person reading is the examiner, it doesn't matter. The examiner is pretending to be that person that you're writing to. So keep them in mind. Okay. So those are the 3 secrets, or the 3 things to keep in mind when you're doing general training task 1. And if you do follow those, I think that you will be able to create a really good letter that will be deserving of a band 7 or 8. So there's more information on this with a few more examples in an article I wrote, which is on my website, IELTSlearningtips.com. So head over there, and if you sign up for the articles, which are sent out every week, you'll also find some free resources and things to help you with your IELTS. So please share this with your friends who are also taking IELTS and need a high band. And I hope to see you on the next video. Bye-bye.